Well, we already had this tutorial in a little bit fast way, so we will start again. We're talking about using Git for the groups. So what is Git? Git is a free open source tooling for collaboration, where you can exchange information very easily with other group members, and you have the versioning of your different source files. So for example, it is coming out of software development, where you have, for example, source code, and you changed one method, and your colleague is changing one other method, and then this possibility via Git is just merging these files in one whole file of your source code, and nothing is a problem. For example, if one is changing the method A and your colleague is also changing method A, then you will have a little bit of a conflict where this tooling says, I have a problem, which version is the correct version? And you have to solve this conflict. So this is all about what is the main purpose of Git, to make collaboration a little bit easier. It is definitely used for distributed development. So you have one developer on the one side and one developer on the other side. And both of them have their version on their home laptop, and then they finally push their version to the origin. Of course, another possibility with Git is that you can do a kind of feature encapsulation. So you can say, for example, we have a whole huge project where we have developing a feature A with a group of 4 people and a feature B with a group of 10 people. And you can say, these are just 2 features independent from each other. Then you make 2 branches, where the one group is working on feature A and the other group is working on feature B. And finally, when they are finished with their development, they can merge it to the master branch and say, okay, now feature A is fully implemented, feature B is fully implemented, and now you have the whole version again in the master branch of your project. So this is another possibility for using Git. And as I already said, it is a version control. So for example, you changed your file, that is fine, and you changed it again, and then another person also changed something, and then you finally recognize that the version from the day before is the right version. It's not a problem. In the version control, you can just go backwards until this version. So you can really say, okay, it is not done at all. I just make a reverse. So you have different pull requests. You can review your workflow. You can make also discussions on your code, on your improvements. And based on these advantages, you have fast release cycles. So the main purpose where Git was developed is in software development, but it is also usable for all the other things where we want to collaborate with different versions of different files. So the basic workflow is you have a working directory on your laptop, on your local machine. You add things to your local repository, and then you push this thing to your remote repository. And this remote repository is then the repository where all the others also have a look on it. So you can do a lot of things here independently from your group members. And finally, if you say, okay, now it is in a stage where I say it is fine, it is useful, it is also useful for the others, I add this to my index and then made a commit, where I also write the commit message, for example, adding a new description file for task 1. And then it is on your local repository. So it is, again, only on your local machine. And if you really want to collaborate it with your other group members, then you have to push it on the remote repository. So then in a little bit other way, from the workspace, you can do a commit directly. So you will add it in the index and make the commit. You can also do it in one way. From the local repository, you have push to the remote repository. And then, of course, you also want to get the new things from the remote repository. So perhaps a colleague from your side also changed things in the files. So you have to make a pull to your workspace from the remote to get the newest information of the remote repository. Before you have your repository installed, you need a checkout. The checkout is made from the head or a specific version. So you can say, I want the last version of my repository or an earlier version in the history, because this is the right version. I will just really go through this in a fast way, because I want to show you directly on the sorcery repository which are you using in this lecture. You can do these different things also with the Git commands directly in the Git console. This is not via a graphical user interface, but of course there are different clients which have a graphical user interface, and I recommend to use them because it's quite easier. But of course you can say, no, I'm fine with just my commands. For example, in Linux, it is often easier not to use the graphical user interface. So you can also use just the git commands in the console. It is git clone for checking out an existing repository. You have git init, for example, for creating a new repository. You don't need this because the repository already exists. Git pull is to get all the changes, and then you have the possibility to add files and commit them with a commit message. Why is this commit message important? It is not important for the storage or the machine, but it is important for you. So if you are searching something in your repository, you will see all these commit messages. And if they are all empty or only nonsense, then you have a really problem to find the right commit. And then pushing the files to the repository is just git push, and you can just add all, and you push everything what you first commit. This is only showing this in a little bit different way, where I said you have your master branch. It is the main branch of your repository. And you can say, okay, from this version, I do some development, which should not be available on the master branch, because this is also under development. And there we try something out. And then we found, okay, we need a feature, so we made a feature branch. Then we changed here a little bit and say, oh, we need another feature, and we made a second feature branch. And finally, we found out, okay, this feature is not important and should not be added at all to the project. So we just left it out. This feature was fine developed, and we said, yeah, that's nice. So we need it in the development branch. We merged it back to the development branch. And then we say, okay, this version is really cool, and therefore we need a release. So we made a release branch out of this, and finally merge this release branch back to the main master branch. So branches are just, you can say you have developments beside. And finally, if you say, okay, I need both of them, you can merge them again to a common version. There are also a lot of advanced possibilities. I won't go through them. You can have a look on them on your own.
Go in the back slide just to connect that. If you can remember in requirement engineering, I have shown you the versioning. Like if you want to have a small version of your requirements, how are you gonna do the version? You see the same type of philosophy here. 0.1, and you know when it is big, then the jump from version 1 to version 2.
Yeah.
So this is a methodical way. So you can do on your way, but this is the way other people will understand, like, you know, what's the scenario behind. Thanks.
No problem. So these are also advanced options. I think you will not need them at all. But one thing I want to remark, there is also the possibility of a git ignore file. There you can say, for example, when you develop things and you develop them with IDE, and there are just some additional files created which are important for starting the program, for example, in Microsoft Windows or at Apple or Linux, then you don't want to push them also in the repository because it depends on your machine. And therefore you can use the git ignore file where you say, okay, I want to track this and that. So for example, here it's shown I do not want to add everything what is in the directory images, for example, just as an information. There is also the possibility for Git with the large file storage. There you have the possibility to get also in the version control large files. It is combining Git with a database behind. It is not relevant for this lecture because it is about 100 GB and more for one file, and we don't have this. As I said, there are a lot of different Git graphical clients. I will show you today Tortoise Git as one example. You can use this. Of course, you can use all the other things also. The last one I also put down because I also want to show you there are not only free versions, there are also some commercial versions. And for Git, there are different Git hosts. I'm not sure, but I think you already heard about GitHub. And there is also GitLab. And for JKU, there is a GitLab hosted by the JKU. And it is called sorceryim.jku.at. And I saw that some of you already have an account there. So some I already could add without an invitation, and some of you got an invitation from my side. We will check it in a minute. If you want to read a little bit more about Git and the information where everything is documented, just use the Git documentation, and all the things are written down there. Also for the large storage, file storage, there is also an information site. So you have here the references where you can look up additional information. Any question for this part? I will show you directly right now how to do it with Sorcery, and please do it also on your laptop so that we can check if everything works for you.
I have this small question, right? Is there any possibility in Git, like sorting the file type? Let's say if you have different numbers of files, different types of files, and you wanted to segregate like based on file type?
It is like it is just in your Explorer, and what you can do there, you can do with them. Of course, you can also make some statistical analysis for your Git repositories, but we don't need it here.
Yeah, just from the interest.
Yeah. Everything clear?